G'day viewers, welcome back. It's been a very long time since I last made a video, and the reason for that is obviously cash, getting money together to be able to buy parts for this. Now it's not cheap, and so I've finally been able to put some money aside for a while and purchased pretty much second last round of materials that I need. What's left? What do we have to do? Well, where I left this was that all the kitchen was done. The splashbacks in the kitchen are done, which is, you can see in the rear there, it's checker plate aluminium. The side checker plates halfway had also been done. Installed some of the lights that you'd probably see. Now the only thing to cover it and seal it was the top half, basically the 3mm composite aluminium, which I wanted one piece. Now this is 3.6 meters in length, and I need a 4-meter piece to be able to cut it down to have one piece stuck onto it. Now that costs a fair bit of money. They're about, I think, $300 a panel, and I've managed to secure a friend who's helping me, who owns a caravan company, and a very nice fella. He's been helping me out with getting some of these parts that I need, and we finally got the money together, ordered it. So I've got the 2 pieces of composite aluminium for the back, also for the sides here. I've got a fiberglass roof, which is in a roll, and I'll show you all of those in a minute. That's gonna also go on the top. I bought the timber paneling for the roof. I bought the insulation over there. I've got all the hardwares, the H channels and the J molds and all of that. So I've sort of purchased everything that I need to completely cover it. So that from this point on, it's basically up to me to be able to start putting this together. It's going to be some difficult moments, because what I've actually done is I've actually decked out the inside, which is great, but at the end of the day there are holes and things that I need to put into the composite aluminium, and I was planning to drill those through the inside out once the sides were on. Now, couldn't wait. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I did. But I've come up with another way. It's going to be a little difficult. I've come up with another way to be able to locate all of these holes around the caravan, mainly on this side here. And I've sort of figured out a way that I could do it. It's going to be time consuming this way, because the other way we could have just slapped it on, drilled through, and there's your holes. But yeah, never make something too easy. It's always got to be a degree of difficulty in things, which I caused myself, but never mind. Okay, let's start slowly, have a look at what parts we've bought, and we'll go from there. Quick walk around with the hardware. This is the fiberglass roof that's going on. It's in a roll. It's a sheet. You can see it's got a protruded, so this is, I can feel it. This is the outside layer, and this is the inside layer. So that will span across the top of the caravan, and plenty. I think it's 3.6 meter roll or something like that. That's plenty. I don't need 3.6 meters. This is the composite aluminium panels that I was talking about, so one massive piece, and it's covered, so we're going to be opening these up and cutting them down to size. This is going to be difficult to handle, but I don't know, I'll work something out. And I've got some timber panels there that are going to go on top of the roof. But before we do that, I'm not going to show you the color, so we can see the color once it's on there. And I've got the insulation here. I've got all of the other components like the J molds and the H molds, just one big long piece. So it's all going to come together hopefully. As I said, these holes are going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll get there. So the first thing we're going to do is install the earth wool in the roof section, and we can then start to cover it up. So they're all nothing major up there at all, just put that on and cover it up and away you go. All right, so we'll get up here and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here we go. So this is the roof section here. As you can see, I had some leftovers there that I'll just pull that off. Needs a bit of a clean, so I've got to pull this out and then start putting the earth wool in. This section here, I'm gonna have to put an internal roof in here to be able to, because yeah, we can't have that exposed just direct, or else we're gonna get some cold coming through here. So maybe I need to figure that out first before we go ahead and do anything else. All right, so here's the roof. We've got those two big pieces on, fed the cables through for the solar and the electricity for the air conditioner, which is going to go in the center there. Here's the hole for it. And as you can see, I've put in earth wool in between. Had to strip it down a bit because it was too thick. So I think that'll do. And get the two last pieces on. Then we're going to earth wool this section here as well, and then cover that up. Once all this is done, then we're going to start on the aluminium pieces, which are there. And I don't know how I'm going to get that 4 meter piece. It's got to be cut down to size to 3.6 meters, 3.62 meters. So I'll give it to 3.7 meters and then router it off. But that's going to be difficult. I don't think that would be a one-person job. Imagine trying to get that on here. So we'll see how that works out. Wow, unbelievable. This thing here, $28. Wow, mate, things are going up in price like you wouldn't believe. I think around 2017 when I started this project, these tubes weren't that expensive. I think they were around the, not more than $17 I'm thinking it was, but I don't think it was $28. That's huge for this little thing. It doesn't even last that long. Anyway, can't do anything about it. Let's go. I don't know, I'm thinking I'm only going to get one shot at this. This is a 45 cut. So I've made it just a little bit bigger so I can sand it off. I don't know if this thing's going to work. I'm not really comfortable with it, but let's see if we can put that there so it keeps it down. Alright. realised that I can cut an angle with this. I'm sure I can get an angle. Alright, can't make a mistake with this. I'm just going to take that off. It's a bit of a hindrance than anything else. Alright, away we go. Mate, that's a perfect cut. I mean, oh, what a machine. What a machine. This little cheap ass Ozito has been so useful, where that big $3,000 thing there can't even do the stuff that this can do. It's amazing. This little tool is fantastic. I don't know even why I bothered with that thing, trying to get this angle right. Oh God. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and think about what you're doing. And then there's a better way to do it. Ozito. Alright. Let's put all this away. I got the perfect cut right on the line. That is gonna be spot on. Alright, let's gotta fix that, but let's have a look. That's it. Okay. Oh. Dropping it everywhere. Doesn't matter, it's got to be painted again. Okay, so the next step is to remove this door and start with the top layer cladding. So that's where we'll start. We'll start with the back section and then start to move around, do the sides. The front and the top is going to be the most difficult one, because the top is going to be fiberglass, that white fiberglass that I got, and I have been told that we need to overlap the composite aluminium over the fiberglass where they both meet. So it needs to overlap probably, 50 mil or 100 mil, whatever. So that's going to be interesting. So wait for that. Okay, so we're getting to the exciting end. The roof is all finished and cleaned. I routed the edges and all the cables have been pushed in and the back door has been removed. So this is where I'm going to start. And what have I done? I've got the composite aluminium laid out, all cut to size. I've actually made it slightly bigger so I could trim it at the end. Yeah, so this is the most exciting part. The next thing would be, I've just given this a nice clean, wiped down with some water, wet cloth over there, and we're going to now put the glue on and put this up. So this is the first piece that will go up and we'll see what it looks like. And then what we'll do is, once it's all dried, we'll cut out that overhang area and it'll be nice one piece just going across the back there. The same is going to be for the sides here. So I purposely got a 4 meter length, so I'm going to cut that down to size as well and have one piece going all the way across. So no joins in the middle. Stay tuned.
I quickly threw together a makeshift bench using the pallet the parts were delivered on, and to my surprise, it turned out to be a brilliant setup. It made the job a lot easier, but the real challenge was wrestling with this huge 4 meter piece. Just lifting it, getting it into position and preparing it for the cut was exhausting. Honestly, the part I dreaded most was figuring out how I was going to raise it into place on my own without breaking my back. That's when inspiration hit. I came up with a simple yet clever method that completely solved the problem. What felt almost impossible at first suddenly became manageable, and it worked far better than I expected. I built a simple stand to hold the sheet upright. The base of the sheet is fixed to a horizontal timber with channels screwed down to lock the bottom in place. The real challenge was feeding it into the horizontal H channel. The steel edge I used to lift it bit into my shins, left a few little scabs, but nothing serious. After a bit of a wrestle, I got the whole thing seated perfectly, and I did it solo. The takeaway? Decide what you need to achieve, then engineer your way there. You don't have to be an engineer to think like one, sketch a method, design a helper tool, and make the job work for you. That mindset turned a tough lift into a clean, satisfying win. Once everything was in place, it was time to pack up again, and that pallet is seriously heavy. Shifting it by hand would have been near impossible, but I had just the trick up my sleeve. I rigged up a simple seesaw-style board with 2 wheels, and suddenly moving that massive weight was effortless. What would normally feel like a back-breaking job turned into a smooth, almost effortless glide. Now it was time to move on to one of the most important steps, gluing the panels into place. To start, I carefully pulled the side panel out just enough to create a working gap, then slid a piece of timber in to hold it steady. This made sure the panel stayed aligned and didn't shift while I worked. With the panel secured, I spread the glue evenly across the entire timber surface, making sure to get a consistent layer so there wouldn't be any weak spots. It was a slow, steady process, but worth taking the time to get right. After all, once the panels are bonded, they're not coming off without a fight. This wasn't a job for ordinary hardware store glue. The adhesive I used is a specialist product that you won't find at Bunnings or your local DIY shop. I sourced it directly from my caravan supplier, and for good reason. It's the same high-strength adhesive they use to bond caravan wall panels onto their timber frames. That gave me total confidence it would handle the stress and weight of my build. Using the right glue here made all the difference, turning what could have been a weak point into one of the strongest, most reliable parts of the whole structure. It's a perfect example of how choosing proper materials and methods up front pays off in the long run. I applied the same gluing system to the rear end of the build. Funny enough, I had originally planned to start with the rear panel, but for some reason I began with the left-hand side panel first. Once that was securely in place, I moved on to the rear panel and finally finished with the right-hand side panel. Each step built on the last, and by this stage I had a good rhythm going with the process. After the glue had set nicely on the timber plywood skin, I made a smart move. I pre-cut the opening in the panel before lifting it into place. This not only made the panel lighter to handle, but also far easier to maneuver into the H channels where it needed to sit. Once the panel was lifted and positioned, I applied the adhesive thoroughly, making sure it spread evenly across the entire surface. The key here was getting full coverage so there wouldn't be any gaps or weak bonds. After pressing the panel firmly into place, I added a little extra insurance by running sticky tape along the edges. This simple step kept the panel snug while the glue cured, ensuring everything would dry exactly where it needed to be. It was a bit of a juggling act at times, but with patience and a methodical approach, everything came together solidly. Now it was time to cut out the openings, which was a bit of a challenge. The goal was to get them out cleanly without damaging the panels, so I approached the job with care. Rather than cutting flush straight away, I left a slight overhang on each piece. This gave me some room for error and ensured I wouldn't accidentally cut too deep or wander off the line. Once the sections were removed, I came back with the router to trim away the excess overhang, giving me a crisp, precise finish that looked professional. The first step in the process was to drill pilot holes in each corner of the opening. This gave me an entry point for the reciprocating saw. From there, I slowly and carefully worked the saw along the marked lines, letting the blade do the work instead of forcing it. Patience was key. The steadier I was, the less chance there was of splintering the timber or damaging the glued panel. By combining the initial rough cut with the router's clean finish, I ended up with perfectly shaped openings that were strong, neat, and ready for the next stage of the build.
Well, we've still got to router the edges out, but not bad. We're all right.
Next came the dreaded task of routing the edges and cleaning them up, a job I honestly hate doing. While it's necessary for a smooth, precise finish, the aftermath is a nightmare. The process creates an absolute mess, both inside the van and all over your body. As you can see in the footage, I end up completely covered. Bits of timber dust, metal filings, and fine debris sticking to my hair, clothes and face. It's one of those jobs that feels like a battle just to keep yourself clean. No matter how careful you are, the mess spreads everywhere. Tiny metal filings cling stubbornly to every surface, and the fine sawdust settles in places you didn't even know existed. I keep hoping to find a better, cleaner way to do it, but so far nothing has worked. Despite the frustration, it's a necessary step if you want sharp, professional-looking edges. At least the satisfaction of seeing perfectly routed edges makes the cleanup slightly more bearable. With all the cutout preparations finally complete, it was time to start installing the doors and windows, tackling them one at a time. I decided to begin with the door since it was the largest piece and would set the stage for the rest of the build. Every time I start a new section, I get this peculiar feeling in my stomach, like I'm about to make a mistake or somehow mess things up. It's a mix of excitement and anxiety that never seems to go away, but I've learned to push through it and focus on the task at hand. As I started putting on the adhesive seal, that same nervous energy came back, except this time I ran into a little problem. I hadn't realized that the seal I had cut was white. By the time I noticed it, I had already started applying it. Seeing the white seal appear made my heart sink because it would be highly visible and would require me to redo the process with black silicone for a clean, seamless look. Applying the silicone correctly took patience and careful control. Using the automatic gun helps to spread it smoothly, but even a slight pause causes a noticeable build-up that has to be cleaned up immediately. I had to maintain a steady hand and consistent speed throughout the entire application to avoid lumps or uneven patches. The key is moving around the edges smoothly and evenly, keeping the flow continuous so the silicone lays down perfectly. Despite the initial setback with the color, carefully managing the motion and speed allowed me to achieve a professional, clean finish around all the edges. It's a task that requires attention and patience, but when done right, it makes the finished doors and windows look flawless and well installed. Not sure if I followed the correct process for installing this door, but here are the steps to do it correctly. First, make sure your door opening is clean and smooth. Remove any dust or splinters and check that the surrounding frame is level and plumb. A clean, straight opening makes all the difference when fitting your door. Next, dry fit the door without any adhesive. Place it in the opening and check the alignment and clearance. Make any minor adjustments if the door doesn't sit perfectly. Once that's done, it's time to apply the adhesive seal. Use a high-quality silicone or caravan-specific adhesive and make sure you've got the right color. Black usually works best to match the caravan trim. Apply it evenly around the door frame, keeping a consistent speed to avoid excess buildup. Carefully position the door into the frame, making sure the bottom sits securely in the channel, and press it firmly into the seal for a strong bond. A steady hand here ensures an even seal along all edges. Use temporary clamps or tape to hold the door in place while the adhesive cures, and double check the alignment so the door opens and closes smoothly. Once the adhesive has set, remove the tape or clamps, clean off any excess sealant, and smooth the edges with a router or sandpaper for a neat finish. Then attach your door with its frame, as this is usually one piece, testing the door several times to make sure it operates perfectly. Finally, inspect the door for leaks or gaps, touching up with extra sealant if needed. Once everything is secure and smooth, your caravan door is fully installed and ready to use. One step I missed was temporarily installing the door after gluing the skin on. This caused a bit of a problem because I hadn't pressed the skin firmly into place and hadn't smoothed out some of the bulging areas before the glue dried. As a result, my door didn't sit completely flush and there was one spot with a noticeable bulge. It's not ideal, but thankfully it's something I can fix with a final bead of black silicone seal, which will make it barely noticeable. The most important thing is that the door is level and functions properly. To make it secure, I added metal screws inside the frame, anchoring it firmly to the steel structure of the caravan. With these in place, the door is stable, aligned and ready for the finishing touches, even if one small section required a bit of extra sealing to look perfect. And that's it.